Starkey is off today. He'll be with me Monday morning at 10. Right now, though, I'm pleased to be joined on the Nemacolin Fan Hotline by our Audacy MLB insider, Bob Nightengale. Insider calls are brought to you by thedriveway.com. Looking for a car? Go to driveway.com where you can get pre-qualified, buy a car, and get it delivered. Bob, how are you, my friend? It's been a while. How are you?
Yeah, doing great. Thanks, Ron.
Well, you're doing better than baseball is at these moments, I would think. Not that we're surprised about this lockout dragging on and the fight for the CBA. Where do you see this ending anytime soon? And is the start of the season in jeopardy?
Yeah, I've been saying all along, I can't see the start of the season being delayed. MLB has pretty much said, hey, if you delay it, we're not making those games up. So you guys are going to miss a paycheck. We don't want to go past the end of October. So we'll see what happens. But, there should have been more progress by now made. MLB, as you said, asked for a federal mediator. That's not going to happen. I'm sure the union today will, formally announce that they rejected that and, sit down and negotiate. Now, the strange part is they're, kind of on the same wavelength as far as, or not wavelength, but they're talking about the same proposals. They're just far apart. At least they've agreed to, pay the younger players, raise the luxury tax, those sort of things. Get away from draft picks, try to change teams from tanking, but they're just far apart on exactly how to do it.
Bob, I've said many times that baseball is my all-time favorite sport. I love it, and maybe I picked a bad sport in this town, with the Pirates, 25 losing seasons in 29 years. But I had a hard time remembering who played in the World Series last year, and I don't think I'm alone on that. It looks to me like baseball is dying a slow death, and almost like the two sides don't realize it. Do they realize their game is in some trouble here?
I don't know if they do or not. I'm with you, Ron. I mean, NFL passes baseball up, long, many years ago. NBA has passed it up now. If they're not careful, hockey is going to pass it up. I bet if you took a survey among, general sports fans, they probably know that baseball is a lockout because all they're worried about is football. And the football had sensational, playoffs, Super Bowl next week. I don't think it's going to dawn on people until Monday morning, the 14th. It's like, oh, my God, there's no spring training. It's like people aren't even paying attention to baseball.
No, and I hang out at places where there's sports people, and the two things I don't hear them talking about is baseball and the Winter Olympics. That's getting no buzz around where I hang out. And I understand the Winter Olympics in Beijing, a long way away, has a limited audience to begin with, other than people that look in for nationalism reasons. But it just seems to me like I asked this question earlier. Can you remember who won the World Series last year? Okay, I thought of it, Atlanta, and then who'd they beat? Houston. It took me a while to think about that. It really did. Yet these NFL games and just captivate you, these playoff games. And I said earlier today, Bob, that, football has problems. This new lawsuit, Brian Flores. Major League Baseball would love to have the NFL's problems, wouldn't they?
No, absolutely. What was the TV rating I saw in the last championship run? I think it was in the 60s.
Unbelievable.
Baseball World Series was, easily under 10. I think it's the lowest rated World Series of all time. And, it's become a very regional sport. NFL is a national sport. So, yeah, you're right. That's why even canceling some spring training games, people are fed up. It's like, hey, people want to go down to Florida and Arizona, go watch their teams play, enjoy the sunshine, the cold beer, things like that. And now that's being taken away from them. I don't think they can afford it all to miss one single regular season game.
So who ends up giving? I mean, the players of what? Their salaries have gone down 4 years in a row, haven't they? And I know the pandemic had a big part to do with that. I don't think the owners are making what they did before either. Which side breaks down in this, do you think, or will they be able to find a happy medium?
I think they'll find a happy medium. Right now it's talking about okay, the minimum salary, the union wants $775, baseball $615, compromise, go to $700. The luxury tax is $245 to $214, compromise at $230. The player bonus pool for the young players. Pretty much the union has said, hey, we're tired of tanking. We want every team to be competitive. Let's penalize these teams for just trying to get the number one draft pick. And I think baseball recognizes that and says, you're right. Let's do it. So they're trying to do a draft lottery instead of, the top, have 3 picks that are lottery picks, and, the union wants 8. But they're talking about the same things. I really believe if they just sat down face-to-face for a week straight, 5 days straight, get this thing done.
We're talking to Bob Nightengale here, our Audacy MLB insider. You read his great work in USA Today. I've known Bob for decades and one of the great baseball writers all across this country. How about the Pirates, Bob? A lot of people have said they have tanked a little bit to get high draft choices. Now I see their farm system is pretty highly regarded. Ben Cherington, at least on paper, has done a pretty good job rebuilding the farm system. I think Baseball America had them rated as number 3 behind Seattle and Tampa. Is the reason for hope here for Pirates fans?
Yeah, but, now it's time to win. If you're a Pirate fan, you're thinking Lucky Stars, you're in the right division, NL Central, because there's no runaway spenders. You don't have the Dodgers. You don't have the Mets. Even, powerful teams like the Cardinals and Cubs, no golden luxury tax. So it's the right division to win in, particularly because there's no superpower in that division. So, yeah, I think they're on the right track. It's good to have a good farm system. But now you got to win. Nobody cares about the farm system as long as you win. Because you look up and down, those Baseball America rankings and different rankings. Usually the best farm systems are the teams that lose, year after year. Tampa Bay withstanding.
I was just going to say, the exception is Tampa Bay. How do they do it year in and year out? And they're not afraid to let their star players go because they have the pipeline continuing, pushing out new players, don't they?
They do, and they know they're players for anybody else, and they trade these guys. They're not the same. I mean, the last example, Blake Snell, he hasn't been close to the same pitching in San Diego as he was in Tampa, even though Tampa, is in the NL East. The AL East. The trade with the Pirates, of course, that might be the most lopsided trade in baseball history. That might be greater, bigger lopsided trade than Babe Ruth. But just they keep pulling these things off. If I'm on their teams, I'm not sure if I want to trade with Tampa.
No, I know, and if you're the Pirates, you certainly don't want to. That trade was just unbelievable, and it's going to look like it's going to hurt them for a long time to come. This young kid, that pitched in the playoffs last year that throws at 100 miles an hour, he's just getting started in his career.
Yeah, I know. I mean, nobody could believe that trade was made, and then it just got, it's getting worse and worse and worse. It's like, unbelievable. You're talking about potentially 3 star players.
Bob, everybody wants a salary cap or salary floor. We're not going to get either one, are we? I don't believe in my lifetime we will see one. And people say, well, hockey shut down and got one. And I said there's a big difference. The hockey owners were losing money, all but a couple, and they were willing to shut the game down. Baseball owners are still making a lot of money, aren't they? They're not going to shut the game down, and they're not going to get a salary cap, in my opinion. Would you agree with that?
No, you're absolutely right, Ron. They're not. I mean, even in baseball, try to give you a floor. Okay, how about forcing teams to pay $100 million? And, the union doesn't want that because they know if there's a floor, eventually becoming a cap. The one thing about the big market teams is like, if there's a salary cap, why can't a Mets spend what they want or a Dodgers? I mean, if you have that kind of money, spend it. And, the union, particularly Max Scherzer recently, in the last negotiating session on Tuesday, told these owners there's no such thing as a small market team because everybody has large revenues. And you look at the Cleveland Guardians, they just sold 35% of that franchise, and the value is $1.3 billion. He bought it for $300 million. And as much as we hear, Tampa Bay owner and Oakland A's owner complaining about their ballparks and life as a small market team, Yet, when people try to buy that team, they have zero interest in selling it because they know they're going to make a fortune off it once they do.
All right, Bob, I want to ask you about the Hall of Fame vote that was revealed last week. I was on vacation when it was announced, and I have to admit I was a little surprised that David Ortiz got in. He has been linked to steroids in the past. He got in. Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens shut out again. Obviously, A-Rod not even close to getting votes. Your thoughts on Ortiz getting in, and were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised. I thought it'd be close. I thought, okay, maybe penalize a year, just because, almost the same as when it took Mike Piazza like 4 years to get in. Jeff Bagwell, Bud Rodriguez got in, but he should have gone in at the first ballot. They should have taken him. He should have gone in a lot easier than he did. So I thought he might get punished just for his role in the steroid part as far as testing positive. But it was an anonymous test. It shouldn't have come out. And he never, tested positive or penalized. My whole view, my line of demarcation, Ron, has always been before 2004 and after 2004. Before 2004, it was a wild, wild west in steroids. It's almost like, hey, if you're driving, during a highway stretch, 200 miles in Pennsylvania, and there's not going to be police cars around or radar guns, you're not going 55. And that's the way it was in baseball. But once baseball came out with the drug testing and said, hey, if you violate this thing, you're going to be suspended, which in turn you're crushing your team's hopes of making the playoffs. So I vote for Bonds and Clemens every single year, but I did not vote and will not vote for Alex Rodriguez and Manuel Ramirez. I mean, they killed their teams by getting suspended. Nelson Cruz, same way. Robinson Cano when he gets in the ballot. So that hopefully this thing is over. With that steroid class, Sammy Sosa's now off the ballot too, forever. We'll go to the Veterans Committee. I don't see the Veterans Committee, letting these guys in right away either. I think it's going to take a while before Clemens and Bonds ever get in.
Well, people have different ways of looking at it, and I'm like you. I've been voting for 30-some years. I turned in a blank ballot this year, Bob, 2 years in a row, actually. And I just won't vote for the steroid guys, and that included Ortiz. I'm not saying I'm right, you're wrong. I just feel like I don't have to give them the highest honor of the game. And who was it? Was it Doug Glanville that penned an outstanding piece? Did you see it about how he's
very good piece.
He's happy that Bonds isn't in there because he tried to compete fairly against those guys, and maybe it cost him money, cost him years of his career. How many other guys it did? I thought he did a real nice job with that. I just try to be consistent with it. There was nobody first time on this ballot that overwhelmed me by any stretch. And I'm one of those guys, Bob, that if I don't vote for you the first year, I'm never going to vote for you. So I don't know. There's no right or wrong answer to it. Do you think Bonds and Clemens one day will get in?
I do. I really do. I think at some point the Veterans Committee will say, let these guys in. They paid enough punishment. One of the big things that hurt Bonds and Clemens is they were too great, Ron. I really believe, and I had talked with Ricky Henderson about this a couple of years ago, I think if Bonds had not broken Hank Aaron's record, he's in the Hall of Fame. I think if Roger Clemens wasn't winning Cy Young Awards in the 40s, he's in the Hall of Fame. And the reason I said that is why are we punishing those two guys? And we let in Mike Piazza and Jeff Bagwell and Pudge Rodriguez. And Pudge Rodriguez lost 40 pounds at the time of drug testing. I mean, Mike Piazza was a 62nd round draft pick for a reason. He was a backup first baseman in junior college. So, I just think we let that door was wide open. Baseball let it happen. Too many baseball managers, GMs, executives were actually persuading their guys to use steroids because they're helping their teams win. The only time they got upset is if you traded for a steroid guy or signed a steroid guy a long-term contract, and then he stopped juicing, then you're mad because he wasn't going to have the same kind of performance.
It's a fascinating topic. There's no question, and I don't know. I just wonder if the Veterans Committee is going to put those guys in it. And as you said, it may take a while yet, huh?
Yeah, I'll go back to those induction ceremonies every year, Ron. My favorite weekend of the year. And those guys are adamant they don't want him in.
Right.
You remember Joe Morgan in 2017? You got the letter, wrote a letter to every WA member and said, please don't let these guys in. So I don't think they're just going to turn their back on the legacy of Joe Morgan and say, okay, yeah. It plus it'd be, be kind of a slap in the face, I think, to the whole baseball writers being the committee, getting it down for 10 years, and then 11 months later, okay, we're letting these guys in. I would love to see Fred McGriff in. I think guys like Fred McGriff were punished by the steroid era by being clean. He had 30 home runs and drove in 100, year after year, but never did the 40, 50, 60 home run thing. So I would love if the Veterans Committee says, you know what, we're going to put in Fred McGriff because he was hurt by the steroid era. We'll put in, Bruce Bochy's going to be in the ballot as well. Jim Leyland may be on this ballot too. We'll see.
Well, I'd love to see him get in, that's for sure. But you mentioned, the numbers in baseball are so hallowed, and I couldn't agree with you more about Bonds and the whole Babe Ruth thing and Henry Aaron. I mean, I think a lot of people were turned off that a guy who had, used steroids broke Henry Aaron's record.
Yeah, I mean, I was following on the Bonds trail a ton of games that year with the Giants when he broke the record with 73 home runs. And I swear, Ron, if he had actually got pitches to hit, he would have hit 90 or 95 home runs. It was just ridiculous. What he was doing. I've never seen a player like that. Whether steroids or non-steroids, dominate the game like he did. I mean, he was much greater than a Mike Trout or some of these young guys now. So,
well,
it's a shame.
If he wanted to hit home runs, he hit 73. He wanted to win a batting title, he hit 390. I mean, he could do whatever he wanted, right? I mean, he just could do whatever he wanted.
Yeah, which is a shame. Someone pointed out to me is right. It's like you look at Bond's numbers at 1999, and they're almost identical to Vlad Guerrero. Vlad Guerrero's in the Hall of Fame, and then what Bonds did later on, it killed his chances to get into the Hall of Fame because those numbers are so preposterous.
All right, Paul, before I let you go, Pete Rose. I haven't heard much about him lately. Is he ever going to be on the ballot A? Is he ever going to get in?
No, I don't think he'll ever be in the ballot just because he's, ineligible. I've said this for years. I still believe it, Ron. I think he gets in, but only after he's dead. I don't think they want Pete to embarrass the Hall of Fame by showing up at all these Caesar's Palace and doing the stuff he does and making a mockery of it. I know baseball has embraced gambling. We're seeing it everywhere now.
Oh,
these stadiums. I just saw where the Wrigley Field is moving the Billy Williams statue and Ron Santos statue to make room for a casino. Not casino, a betting site. Right on the right in the corner of Wrigley. And I swear, we're going to have so many problems with that. We're going to have guys on the take. Too many people know inside information. Clubhouse attendants, trainers, what have you. They're asking for trouble.
We've come a long way from the Black Sox scandal, right? I wrote about this for Sunday here. Not long ago, Pete Rose ordered Joe Namath to get out of a New York club because gamblers hung out there. Now they're in bed with these gambling companies. Pete Rozelle must be rolling in his grave,
Oh, yeah. Remember when, Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle got suspended, right, for a year because they were working for casinos, just like doormen, not doormen,
just
but,
showing up being Willie Mays.
Greeters.
Yeah, just showing up and being Willie Mays. Unbelievable. You do think Rose will get in, though?
Only after he's dead. I do. I think just say, you know what, the all-time hits leader, let's put him in. So you can argue whether he deserves to be in there. I will say this, and you can attest this, Ron, is that when we win those clubhouses all those years, every time you walked in, there was a huge sign, no gambling, no gambling.
Yep.
There was never any signs that says no steroid use or anything like that. It was just gambling. And I know, he argues that I never bet against the Reds, I only bet on them. But the days he didn't bet on the Reds, everybody kind of knew he thought they were going to lose, so the gamblers jumped all over that thing.
I know. And I'll let you go on this. I remember once in the Pirates clubhouse, the late, great Bill Verdon was on Jim Leland's staff, and I can still see the veins popping out in his neck saying, if that SOB ever gets in, they wanted nothing to do with him. He broke the cardinal rule of baseball,
It was. And, the game, when he'd been on the Reds, obviously he was doing everything possible to win, burning out your bullpen, things you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to look at the long run over 162 games, not, do everything possible to win that one game, even though it was going to hurt your team the next 3 or 4 days.
Bob Nightengale, man, it's always fun to talk to you. I always enjoy it. Hopefully one of these days we'll be able to talk about baseball on the field. I got to tell you, I have my doubts at this point.
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised it's taking this long, and I think spring training is going to start at least 2 or 3 weeks late.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Stay well, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thank you, Ron. Take care.
All right. That was Audacy MLB insider Bob Nightengale. Great job he does for USA Today. Insider calls are brought to you by Driveway.com. Head to Driveway.com today to shop more than 25,000 new and used cars in Driveway's nationwide inventory. We'll